Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1 of The Army Nerd. I'm your host, Doug, the Army Nerd. And in episode 1, I want to talk about what this podcast is all about, why I decided to start it, and where I hope this will grow the community in the future. So I'll start off by introducing myself. I've been in the military for 9 years now. I started in the infantry, moved on into special operations, and throughout my career, I have met many people like me who are huge gamers, been gamers all their life, ever since they were kids, playing Pokemon, Magic, D&D, and Warhammer. And you find that in the military, a lot of people are not willing to really talk about that side of themselves. They don't want to go into the hobby aspect because I don't know if they think it's looked down upon or that they're going to be made fun of inside the military, right? And I've even found it in myself, right? You're starting a new job, you don't have a lot of rapport built up with your new unit, and you're not going to be coming in and first thing you say to your new group of dudes is, "Hey, who wants to go start a D&D campaign this weekend?" Right? But I've been to various bases across the United States and overseas. Specifically at Fort Bragg, there's a huge community. And there's really good hobby shops, like the Hobbit right outside one of the front gates. It's where I went to go get my land navigation maps. Hit Point Hobbies is a really good store. Had a lot of good games there. And what I found was that there is a big military community that plays, but there's nobody talks to each other. Another example was at Fort Benning, and there's a good store called Moxie Games out of Fort Benning. And I went in there and talked to the guy, and the store owner was telling me, yeah, there's a bunch of drill sergeants that come in here and play Magic the Gathering, but none of them talk to each other. They all just kind of separately come in and play, and they don't. It's like they're ashamed to talk to each other about it. So really, what I want is I wanted this podcast to kind of inspire people to come out of their shell a little bit and really connect military gamers and hobbyists across the military. The biggest hobby I think I'm into right now is Warhammer. I'm a huge Warhammer fan. I've been collecting and painting and playing for about 3 years now. And really, I was introduced to the hobby by my old boss, actually. He was a lieutenant colonel. And, he was telling me about it. And I was like, to be honest, I was like, sir, this sounds pretty lame. I'm not going to lie to you. And I was super critical of it. And it went till the following year, and I was doing a road march, and it was an unknown distance, unknown time road march, and I run into a buddy of mine, and it's heavy ruck, and I'm sucking, and so I tell him, I was like, hey man, tell me a story, tell me anything to get my mind off my knees and my back, right? And he starts telling me about Warhammer, and so my buddy's just going into it, and he's like with the Emperor and Space Marines and all this stuff, and I was like, you know what, this sounds pretty cool, like I'm into sci-fi, like Star Wars, just like everybody else. And so when I get done with that selection and I get back out into the real world, I go and I buy the first 3 books of the Horus Heresy, and I started reading the lore, started getting really into the universe, and I thought, you know what, maybe I'll give the miniatures a try. And so bought starter box set. And I think by the end of the month, I had well over 50 miniatures, and I was, hook, line, and sinker, man. They got me. And I got really into it. And I've met multiple people across the military from, lieutenant colonels, a separate lieutenant colonel than my old boss, another one I used to play a bunch of games with. He's primarily in the Star Wars Legion now, but really good dude, and, big into Warhammer. At another tournament, I met a guy who was in the Navy, and he does outstanding commission painting. He's called his YouTube channel, or not YouTube channel. He's got a Facebook page called the Paint Marine. He does a really good Buzz Lightyear paint scheme Space Marines army. It's gorgeous work. You should check him out on Facebook, and he might have a Patreon or something. But really good work. And I was talking to him about it, and he actually had a guy in his unit that was super into Warhammer. They never talked about it, right? They missed out all these opportunities. They could have been talking about it, playing games, having fun, enjoying the hobby. And when that guy was getting ready to PCS, he saw him getting rid of his stuff, not really too busy. He was reading a book. He's reading a Warhammer book. He's like, "Oh man, you're into Warhammer." He's like, "Yeah, dude, I love it." Completely missed opportunities, right? And I think this is something that's happening across the military, where there's this underground community of players, and nobody wants to really put themselves out there. there's a company called Mini Wargaming out in Canada. They produce battle reports, and they used to have a thing where they would have guests come to the studio and play games with them. And I was doing some training out in Fort Drum, just right across the border. So, I took some leave on the end of my training, and I drove up there, and I got a game in, and I was talking to one of the content producers, Josh, really good dude, big gun nut, interestingly enough. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, man, we get a lot of military guys up here, and it's always like 50-50. Half of them are either really into it and they play with guys in their units, and the other half are like completely in the closet and they won't talk about it with anybody. And I think it's unfortunate that we have this kind of culture in our military, and I want to break away from it, right? So I want this to be a podcast to help inspire people to, one, recognize that there are good dudes in the military. They're like into these hobbies, man. And it makes all the sense in the world, A lot of these hobbies are super useful. I'll give another great example. A lot of the training that I did focused around personal interactions, right? How are you going to influence people and talk to people and say the right things, right? So that you're not either offending somebody's culture, or you're, working together. You're making them take ownership of the mission that you're there doing jointly. And a lot of those skills you can build up playing, like D&D, even Warhammer, right? Because all of these are really just personal interactions, and it gets us away from just sitting in front of a computer and playing computer games, which, don't get me wrong, I love computer games, right? But I think we're missing out so much on that social interaction that these kind of hobbies kind of force on you. I'll tell you, when I started DMing for D&D, it was super challenging, and it really worked to expand the creativity that I needed in order to do this job, right? And I wanted to do it well, and I got a lot of social practice out of it, right? You had conflict resolution, you had negotiation. There's all kinds of things that I had to, work through with these players, and kind of scenarios I had to come up with in order to get them through, the story we were trying to tell. And a lot of these are hobbies that I thought were super lame back in the day, right? I remember the first time I was introduced to D&D specifically was in, it was like 2009. And I remember, I'm competitive, right? Like most people in the military, I think type A personality, I want to win. And I was asking these guys, they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to play D&D, here's what's going to happen. And I was like, okay, so how do I win? I'm like, well, it's not really winning, it's more like we're on the same team. And I was like, so wait, so how do I have to beat you? Do I have to beat the monster? Like, where's the end game? And I didn't understand that the end game is to just have a good time and like tell a story. And I didn't appreciate it. And I was like, dude, this is lame. All right, I'm not gonna play this. This is not something for me. And it wasn't until years later that I started playing again, and specifically to reopen some personal relationships that I had just lost over the years, right? Group of friends from, high school I was super close with. And, being in the military, you move a lot. I've been stationed in Germany, been stationed on the East Coast. It's just difficult to keep up with people. And so I reached back and I was like, hey, let's do something together that will not just involve us, playing video games, or something where we can, interact with each other. And we all kind of came to the consensus like, hey, let's try D&D. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I think it's lame, but the point of this is to kind of connect with friends and start playing over Roll20. Really good web application. You can just go to their website and you can build up a map and play with each other across the internet. And we would use Roll20 to simulate the maps, and we would use Discord, right? So we'd have the Discord up, and we were just great time, man. Like, it was just, I felt like I was back home just hanging out with my buddies. And like I said, a lot of those situations that I needed to talk through and kind of work out in my mind, it kept me on edge, man. Like, it kept me thinking and reacting. And one of the key things, right, that we're looking for is adaptability in our soldiers, right? And man, it's nothing more adaptable than somebody that can think quick on their feet and resolve a scenario that they were not expecting to be put into, right? And these are things that, it's not just someone's born with it, right? Like, I think we all know people who are, social butterflies and really good at communicating with people, really good at it, coming up with comebacks. Probably a lot of it comes from, shit talking in either the team room or shit talking in the platoon area. But you can get better at that kind of stuff, right? It's not just, you either have it or you don't. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And so I think not only was it a good time and I connected with friends, but it was a lot of fun and we had a lot of good stories from it. It was also a ton of work, but other than just like the social practice that comes with it, there's a lot of mental gymnastics that you got to make. And I'll switch back over to 40K here. Is when you're making a list to play 40K, or even let's even take Magic the Gathering if that's something you play. When you're making a deck, there's all these combinations that you're constantly working through with an overarching end goal in mind, right? Like you have a theme, like I want this deck of cards to do this, I want this army to be able to do this, right? And eventually your goal is to win, right? It's a little more competitive focused. That's just good for your brain, man. Like you're exercising your brain to make all these connections and see these patterns and combinations, right? And it's a lot better than just sitting in front of TV and just chilling out, right? So I think the community has a lot to gain from being more open about these hobbies and playing into them a little bit more. And two, I think there is a desire and a want out there for people to connect and talk about these things and connect to each other. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about why I think that I wanted to start this podcast. And really what I want from this is I've started up a Discord as well. So there's this Discord, it's up. I'll put the link in the description below. But I think if we can just get people to start connecting over Discord, right? If nothing else, if I just get, a couple of guys that are both stationed at the same base to like connect and be like, hey man, I didn't know you were into this. Let's get a game on, right? And if you're a first sergeant or any leadership, right? Would you rather your Joes be out in town drinking, get in trouble, or being nerds playing D&D or Warhammer, drinking, in each other's houses? I'm just saying, you want to lower the rate of alcohol-related incidences, this could be an avenue of approach. That's all I'm saying. But that's me. That's really all I want to talk about in this first episode. I really hope that there is some response from the community. I hope this is something people are looking for, because I do think that there is a niche in the military. And it's not just for the military, right? Like there's a huge community of players that I have played with, and majority aren't military, right? For a lot of the reasons that I described above. And they're great, man. Like some of my best friends I met at some of these gaming clubs near bases, and usually they're tied, either they had family in the military or whatever. But hey, if you're not in the military, don't feel like this isn't something for you. Like the Discord is not like military only. Like you're not gonna have to show your ID card to get in. Really the point of this is to get people more games in, get people more interaction, and really build a community around our military bases and around our military community. And it's for everybody, right? Whether you're a service member or a civilian or a contractor or whatever it is that you do, or even if you're just somebody that lives in the area, man. If you live near a military base and you want to get some games in, if you live up in Raleigh or you live down in up in Buffalo or somewhere near, you got a base nearby, hey man, reach out. I can get on the Discord, find some games, connect with some people, and hopefully this helps expand the community. And if there's anything, I'll make a couple more episodes. I really want this to become a long-term project, but we see what kind of response we get. I'll just be mainly focusing on my experiences, kind of the things I've worked through in games, my experiences as a DM, my experiences as a tournament organizer for 40K, running different kinds of campaigns, narratives, competitive, things like that. And hopefully it can, fuel some ideas. But if there's episodes that you guys want to hear, there's things you guys specifically want me to talk about, please feel free, hit me up in the Discord, hit me up in the comment section, wherever you want. But that's me, man. This is the Army Nerd. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, this is Army Nerd. We are RTV time now.